Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. It's Miss Hedges, and I wanted to read to you a book that I bought recently for my son by David Walliams, and it's his new book called Slime. So the first part of the story is just looking at some of the characters that we'll be meeting during the book. This story is set on the island of Mulch. The little island is home to some big characters. Meet Ned. Ned is a bright and funny boy of 11. Because his legs haven't worked since he was a baby, Ned uses a wheelchair to whiz around Mulch. Jemima is Ned's older sister. Jemima likes nothing more than playing the most horrid tricks on her little brother. I'm sure you've got some sisters or brothers that might like playing tricks on you too. Ned's parents. Dad spends all day on his fishing boat out at sea. Mum spends all day at the island's market, selling the fish he catches. Sir Walter Raff is the headmaster of Ned's old school, Mulch School for Revolting Children. It's the boys' old school because Sir Walter expelled Ned in one of his notorious volcanic rages. Mr. Lust is the deputy of Mulch School for Revolting Children. Day and night he lusts after the top job, that of headmaster. Edmund and Edmund Envy run the only toy shop on the island, named Envy's Emporium. The terrible twins loathe children for the simple crime of being young and send the poor mites fleeing from their shop in floods of tears. Madame Silenzio Sloth is the world's laziest piano teacher. The lady is paid good money to give piano lessons to children. However, all she does is snooze on the sofa as she blows off, thunderously. Captain Pride is the island's park keeper. The public park is the ex-army officer's pride and joy, so much so that absolutely no one is ever allowed to set foot inside, especially not nasty little children who will trample his precious grass. Glenn and Glenda Glutton own the only ice cream van on the island, Glutton's Glaces. That is because they have rammed all their rival ice cream vans off the road. The married couple are thieves who snatch children's pocket money, then speed off without giving them their ice creams. Instead, the evil pair scoff all the ice creams themselves. Aunt Greta Greed is Ned's and Jemima's mega-rich auntie. She owns the Isle of Mulch. The grand old lady lives alone in the castle, high on a hill that overlooks the entire island. All she has to keep her company are more than 100 cats, all called Tiddles. Gigantic Tiddles, this one here, is Aunt Greta's heftiest cat. It's the size and weight of a bear, and infinitely more fearsome. And last but not least, Slime. Oh yes, Slime is very much alive. It is a creature with powers to change shape or trans-slime into anything and everything. But is Slime a force for good or evil? You must read on. What do you think? Do you think Slime's going to be good or going to be evil? If we look at the front cover, we can obviously see him here. What about these people? What could they be doing? Let's read on and find out. Raj, the newsagent, does not live on Mulch. That's a shame. I was so looking forward to being in the story. Sorry, Raj, maybe another story. Prologue. A prologue is like a short story that comes before the main story. So it gives us a little bit of background information on someone or something before the main story starts. So this prologue is a brief history of Slime. So I think we might find out a little bit more about him. Slime is one of the greatest mysteries of the world, if not the greatest. It beats the creation of Stonehenge, laughs in the face of the power of the pyramids, and takes a giant slimy plop on the Loch Ness Monster. Slime? What is it? Where is it? Who is it? How is it? And why is it? Children demand to know where slime came from, and grown-ups are desperate to know if it's ever going back. For the first time in history, the legend of slime can finally be told. All will be revealed in this book, which might be the most important book ever written. Hang on a second, written? We wouldn't say written. Can you see this little star up here? If I look at the bottom of the page, it tells me it's a real word you will find in your Walliam's dictionary, the world's #1 dictionary. Don't think we'd find it in our dictionaries, maybe just in David Walliam's books. Some experts believe that slime dates back billions of years. Their theory is that when the earth was created, it was nothing more than a sea of slime. Out of that slime came more slime, and out of that slime came more slime. Then, of course, out of that slime came even more slime. It remained buried under the earth for billions of years, until now. Others suppose that at the dawn of time, a giant meteor of slime crash-landed into the earth. On impact, billions of gallons of slime exploded into the air, covering every living thing in thick slime. This explains why the dinosaurs died out. They got slimed. There is another theory that many years ago, slime-based aliens from a slime-based planet, the planet Slime, flew in a slime-based spaceship to the Earth. Once on Earth, they taught ancient civilizations all about slime, how to construct buildings out of slime, the best recipes to cook with slime, and most importantly, how to make socks out of slime. Then, the slime-based aliens got in their slime-based spaceship and whizzed back to their slime-based planet, the planet Slime, and they never came again. But they left the secret of slime with the human race, so children could torment grown-ups with it forever. The truth is rather different. Slime was actually created more than 50 years ago on a remote island, the Isle of Mulch, to be precise. It's situated in the middle of the great north-east-southwestern sea, between the islands of Twaddle and Stench. And here we can see the Isle of Mulch, in between Stench and Twaddle, north-east-southwestern sea. How do I know all of this? Because I just made it up. Map of the Isle of Mulch. So this would have been the school that he attended before he was expelled. Kitty Litter Castle. I wonder who lives in Kitty Litter Castle. Chapter 1, Mulch. The little Isle of Mulch was home to less than 1,000 people, 999 to be precise. I told you it was less than 1,000. One of these 999 people was a boy named Ned. Ned wasn't short for anything. He was just called Ned. Ned was 11 years old. He'd been born on Mulch and, like most islanders, had never left. To say Ned was just an ordinary boy would be wrong. He wasn't ordinary, he was extraordinary. Ned had been born with legs that didn't work. He couldn't walk at all, so he was found a battered old rusty wheelchair, and he learned to use it. The boy could often be seen whizzing around the island doing stunts and wheelies to delight his friends. "I got the zoomies!" he would cry as he whizzed past. Home for Ned was a tiny, weather-beaten old cottage. The cottage perched on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the raging sea that surrounded the island. From dawn until dusk, Ned's mother and father were out of the house at work. Dad was a fisherman, so was away at sea all day on his fishing boat. Mum sold the fish Dad caught on the island's market. The only fish you could catch around the Isle of Mulch were called shoefish. They were fish shaped like shoes. They tasted like shoes too. The overriding flavour was foot sweat, but the locals became used to the taste. Disgusting though it was, they had no choice. Needless to say, both Ned's parents absolutely stank of fish, but Ned didn't see or even smell much of them as the pair were always working. Instead, the boy was left home alone with his older sister Jemima. She resented Ned deeply. She might have been the older one, but it was her younger brother who got all the attention. The girl wore pretty little flowery dresses with huge steel-capped boots, and she wasn't afraid to use them. Steel-capped boots mean that they've got a bit of steel right towards the end of the boot, so they're very, very tough. It will protect her feet, but obviously if she was to use them against someone else, that's really going to hurt. Ned's aunt owned the Isle of Mulch. She was his mother's much older sister, and her name was Greta Greed. High on a hill overlooking the whole island squatted Kitty Little Castle, a huge medieval fortress that the lady called home. It was a world away from the tiny cottage that Ned shared with his family. Greed lived there alone, which is how she liked it. Her only company was her 101 cats. These cats were fearsome beasts. She had them to scare nasty little children away. The lady loathed children, meaning she didn't like children at all, especially her poor nephew, Ned. Aunt Greta never ever did anything to help him. For her, children ruined her Isle of Mulch with their games, their chatter, and worst of all, their stench. Aunt Greta should be the last person to complain about a smell, as she stank of cat pee. I wonder if you were to count all these cats on there, do you think there'd be 101? Not quite, but still quite a lot of cats. Because Aunt Greta owned the entire island, she had power over all of those who lived there. The lady rewarded those grown-ups on Mulch who detested children almost as much as she did. One such man was Sir Walter Wrath. He was a nasty old wretch whom Greed had made headmaster of the only school on the island, Mulch School for Revolting Children. The only thing that gave Wrath pleasure was expelling children from his school. Like so many others, Ned had suffered that fate. There was one toy shop on the island. Greed had given care of it to twin brothers, Edmund and Edmund Envy, had named the shop Envy's Emporium. But it was nothing more than a front for terrorising children. Ned had had a particularly nasty time when he'd last visited. Another resident of Mulch was Madame Silenzio Sloth. The lady was supposed to be a piano teacher, but she was too lazy to teach children anything. Sloth was virtuoso of cruelty. Ned had the misfortune of being one of her pupils, and when he dared to complain, all hell broke loose. Captain Pride was an uptight ex-soldier whom Greed had appointed Mulch's park-keeper. The captain ensured no one could ever enjoy the island's only public park, especially not little people like Ned. Ice cream sellers Glenn and Glenda Glutton made sure children never got to enjoy an ice cream. Ever. The married couple zoomed around the island in their van looking for children to rob. They took their pocket money and then sped off without giving them their ice cream. If the Gluttons had lived anywhere else in the world other than Mulch, they would have been locked up in prison and the key thrown away. However, Greed delighted in their scam and ensured the pair were never brought to justice, even when they stole from her own nephew, Ned. So this little island was home to a large number of horrible grown-ups. But there was a child on the island who was probably as bad. Poor Ned was related to her. It was his sister. So that's the first chapter, and I will be back soon with the next one. Take care.